Hello everyone. We will start in just a moment. And hello everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this night's edition of Real Talk. Tonight we're going to be talking about the 1993 Robert Redford, Demi Moore, and Woody Harrelson romantic drama, which is about a billionaire that offers $1 million to a young married couple for a one-night stand with a wife. So last week we did clay pigeons. Casey was nice enough to join me, and we will be back next week with Killing Zoe with Eric Stoltz. Casey will be back in studio. And we've had a boost in the podcast in the YouTube feed as well. So thank you all for watching and enjoying the show. This week we have Saturday at 10 o'clock on 88.7. We have The Other People Show. And as always, you can check out The Other People Show as well as past episodes of Real Talk on The Other People Show on Spotify or The Other People Show on YouTube. Now, excuse me, going into this movie, I had never watched this movie before. I had really only seen, I think I had only seen one scene of the movie, and I had only seen the scene where Woody Harrelson and Demi Moore's character are, I guess they're making love early on in the movie, and I think she throws like a pair of his boxer shorts, and they land on top of the stove, and they catch on fire. So that had been really the only part of the movie that I had ever seen up until this past week, which was actually 2 nights ago. So 2 nights ago, I watched this movie, and I gotta say, it wasn't a bad movie. But there were some things in it that I think that I could have made better as a screenwriter, and I think that I could have done a better job. But the premise was very interesting, and we're going to get into that as well. Now, I don't have my exact notes up here; they seem to have went away. But we're going to get into the plot of the movie first. Well, let's get into a few facts, because I know everybody likes facts about movies that you enjoy. So the director, let's get into the director's past things. Adrian Lyne, he's a director, writer, and producer. And in addition to Indecent Proposal, he has also directed Flashdance, Fatal Attraction, Indecent Proposal, and Jacob's Ladder. So those are probably, and the movie, let's see if I could find it here on IMDb really quickly. It's the movie where Unfaithful is another one of his movies, and 9.5 Weeks. So a lot of those movies are kind of sexually charged movies that deal with the intertwining of sex and instability, doubt, things like that, temptation, so to speak. So those are a few things that the director has done before. Now, it was weird as I was doing some research about this movie that the director was originally dismissive of casting Woody Harrelson as David, but changed his mind after watching White Men Can't Jump. And Woody Harrelson had also said that it was very difficult doing the love scenes with Demi Moore because Woody Harrelson and Bruce Willis at the time was married to Demi Moore. They were really good friends, so it was really difficult for him to do those scenes in the movie. A couple other things that I saw that was pretty interesting was originally this movie was to star Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, and Warren Beatty was taking the part of the billionaire, which is played by Robert Redford in the movie. And Diana, who is played by Demi Moore in the movie, was originally going to be played by Julia Roberts. Well, I won't say originally going to be played, but the part was offered to Julia Roberts, and she turned the part down. So that goes with that. But as far as the plot of the movie, I think this is a very interesting premise because anytime that kind of these type movies are presented with would you do this for this, or question movies, or even movies like the torture porn movies of Saul, will you give this much blood to save your life? Will you take $1 million for one night with your wife? Things, moral conundrums, I guess you could say. I think the plot is a very interesting plot. I like the plot. I like the characters. I like those, but I like the fact that it's a billionaire sees something that he wants. He's charismatic. He's an older man, and he sees something across the way. Well, actually, he sees her first in a little dress shop outside of a casino, and he catches her eye right away. And she is stunning. She has that 90s look, and I think that the shorter, I think her hair was like maybe Demi Moore as Diana. Her hair was to her shoulders, and I think it was a very chic and elegant look for her, and for that character as well, because it could also later in the scenes, later in the movie, it's slicked down to look more chic, but it's also messed up some parts in the movie as well to show that, hey, this couple doesn't have a lot of money, but they're doing the best they can with what they have. But I think, and I made this observation and thought earlier, is that if this guy's a billionaire and he sees this beautiful young lady that he has to have, and they get into a conversation, he calls her over and she actually wins him $1 million, I think, maybe even two, I can't recall, 1 or 2 million at the gambling table, the craps table maybe, or roulette, one of the two. So, in all honesty, he kind of owes her the money, because without that, he wouldn't have won anyway. That being said, that's just a minor plot point. He should have offered her $10 million. And the reason I say this is because at one point he says, the money, think about this, the money could last the rest of your life. I'm thinking, if it's $1 million tax-free in 1993, that's a possibility. Maybe $1 million, if played correctly, played smart, you can make that last. But they had already showed their incompetence a few scenes before, when they had stated they had won half of what they needed, 25,000 out of 50 to save their house, basically. And they ended up blowing it and then going down to 4 million or 4,000 and then to nothing. But I do think that Robert Redford's character should have offered 10 million. But that also could play into the factor, well, 10 million, you are set for life. Unless you're an idiot and a fool, you are set for life. Maybe raise the stakes, of the money change. But other than that, a billionaire offers $1 million to a young married couple for one night with a wife. It's a good premise. I think the plot points are good. I think it's a good, interesting premise. The characters, there were 3 leads: Robert Redford, Demi Moore, and Woody Harrelson. I would say that the leads all did a good job. I can't say that I thought that they did a bad job, although I do think, no, I haven't seen any extended version of the film, so only, or deleted scenes, so I can only judge by what I saw a few nights ago. But I don't think the character, and I think it was a 1 hour and 52-minute movie. And there are a few little slow places, not a tremendous amount, but just a few. But I think that they could have changed a few of those little slow moments and put in some more. It seemed like whenever Diane went with I don't know that. I'm trying to get to the cast really quick. Whenever you have, Robert Redford as John, Woody Harrelson as David, Demi Moore as Diana. So, I think it's a difficult thing when later in the movie Diana suddenly her whole persona changes, and it seems to be a relatively short period of time. So her persona changes. One time David walks in, they're on the sidewalk. He's obviously drunk. He falls down. She's got her hair slicked down. She's got this elegant looking outfit, kind of high society type outfit on, and she just doesn't even speak to him. And he's down on the gutter. She just passes him by. Now, what made her transformation so abrupt? You know, now I know David was causing her grief, constant bringing it up, not trusting her. I know you're thinking about him, but they presented David, and this might be, possible, and I'm sure it is, but they presented David in a few shots as a complete madman, almost as if he were on some kind of hallucinogenics or something. Partly it was due to his frantic pacing around, his disheveled look. It was totally disheveled. The camera angles were very jarring and odd angles, and just this look of like lost desperation. Now, I can understand, you know, feeling that way, but he runs. He run before John whisks her away to his boat earlier. I guess the beginning of the second act is Woody Harrelson's running up the top to the landing pad, and the helicopter takes off, and he's yelling, "Ah! Ah!" And then as he's going down, it's like he's a completely different person. Now you're telling me that now I know it's a movie, but you're really going to be racing to try to stop the wife in that kind of condition? You don't want to come off as posed, calm, collective. In the morning, in less than 24 hours, you will be receiving $1 million. You will be receiving that. You know your wife, and she knows you. So, maybe he is aloof, maybe he's crazy. Obviously, he's jealous. He has these jealous tendencies. Um, I don't know how I felt about that. The character of John, I thought it was a good character. I thought it was a nice. I don't even know if I would really want to call him an antagonist, because during the end of the movie, he did the right thing. He, made himself look bad because he knew that she could never look at him the way she looked at David. And he knew that. So therefore he came up with the Mile High Club or the 1 Million Club. And, she's the most beautiful of the 1 Million Club, as if it's been an ongoing thing. When in reality, he just said that so she would think disgust of him and go back to David. Diana's character, I thought she was a strong character. I thought she added a lot. I thought she did a good job. It seems like some of her acting wasn't on par, but for the most part, this was her on her way to the top. She was up there a couple of years, and this was her, on going that way. This was one of the movies that established her as a female lead. Now, this movie was shot for only, I think, $45 million. I'll say only jokingly, but that's really not a lot in Hollywood movie money. Now, in the 90s, that was a little bit more than 45 million now. But it was a box office success. It cost 38 million, excuse me. It was a very big box office success, making 106 million in the United States and 266 million worldwide. So you can see why Demi Moore rose to the top, as did Woody Harrelson. He'd only done like White Men Can't Jump and Cheers, and Demi Moore had done a few movies, and she went into a movie kind of like a couple of different kind of movies, Disclosure. Those kind of movies were popular because Demi Moore was just coming off of Ghost, which was really popular, probably her most popular movie of all time. So this was released April 7th, 1993, and there's a few little random bits of information. Let's see, the music, for those that will listen on the podcast, we started off with Sade, No Ordinary Love. I think that was actually used in the commercials. I can't recall. I think it was in the film as well. But there was a lot of piano score to the movie, a lot of jazz and things like that. I thought it actually helped. You've got it's mainly just score or non-lyrical. You've got the Helicopter Sunset, Change of Mind, Restless Night. I mean, there's all kinds of songs on the soundtrack and score. And I think it's a good score to revisit. I think it's one, it's got some good mood music, some piano music on it. This, I'm listening right now, The Restless Night. It's kind of got some minor chords, A minor chords. It's good. I would check it out. As far as other ballads, other songs, pop songs, rock songs, not really anything featured on there much, but it's not a bad score. Let's see what out here. Favorite characters. I didn't really have any favorite or least favorite characters. I did think, excuse me. I did think, however, Woody Harrelson was totally miscast. I don't see, well, maybe I do see it because I see it a lot in everyday life. But it seems like Demi Moore's character could do better than him. And not that she was a better person, but that her look would do better than him. And him as an architect, I don't know if I really buy that. Woody Harrelson as an architect, I'm not really sure if that would be the case. So I do think he was greatly miscast. He did a fine job within his limitations, and you can tell that he's grown as an actor since then. But at the time, I think they could have found somebody a little better. Overall, I would say this movie is, I don't want to say that I'm disappointed in this movie because I'm really not disappointed in the movie at all. But I thought the movie would be a little bit more than it was. I thought the movie was a little flat. I don't think the characters were extremely well developed. They weren't underdeveloped, but they were, I don't know. It was at 2-hour running time, basically. So they could have trimmed some fat off the bone somewhere and stuck on some more lean plot points or character developments to make it just tighten it up a little bit. Some of the dialogue was a little bit clunky at points. And I do think the ending of the movie, which had the scene that, neither one of them at this point, she's with Robert Redford's character and Woody Harrelson, David, and John are out. They're trying to bid one another in this auction for like an elephant, or a hippopotamus. Excuse me, a hippopotamus, because David and her thing was like a hippo, a little gag that they had together. And I found that kind of unrealistic. I think they could have done that a little bit better. I think they could have come up with a little, and it had a few characters that were a little like Oliver Platt's character as the lawyer. He did a fine job, but I thought the character was misplaced. And there were a couple little goofy characters in there that you wouldn't think this type of a serious movie would actually incorporate, but it did. So, all in all, I think IMDb has this, let's see what they have it at. They've got Indecent Proposal at a solid 6 out of 10. You know, I would probably give it a 5.5 out of 10. You know, maybe a 6. You know, I did like the look of the film. It's very 90s, but it's very chic. It's very elegant. You've got, you know, all the leads do a good job with the material. You've got the older, handsome lead in charismatic older gentleman, billionaire Robert Redford. You've got the sexy young wife, who's eager yet determined and strong, Demi Moore, and then you've got the naive, kind of goofy husband who somehow stumbled onto being an architect in Woody Harrelson, who, you know, runs through the streets in the hotel like he's on some kind of hallucinogen. Like I said, I wouldn't discourage from watching it at all, but I don't think it's a movie that I will be rewatching anytime soon. I'm glad that I watched it. I'm glad that I can now say, yes, I have seen Indecent Proposal, and that be it. Like, you know, I would recommend it. So, you know, if it's free, you don't want to pay it, you don't want to buy for it. If you've got about 2 hours to kill, you like this kind of movie, then check it out. And if you don't, then I would pass. So, but yeah, it was, you know, I was glad that I watched it. It's been something that I've heard of it. You know, it's coming on, it's 30 years old now. And it's weird to think a movie like, you know, I remember when it came and went a little bit, but 30 years old. But yeah, one of the last things that I wanted to say was that is the age-old question of the film. You know, would you offer or allow your significant other to sleep with someone else for $1 million? $1 million. Now, I would say this. Have at it. Do it if you want to. However, regardless of the outcome, I'm walking away with $500,000, and you can walk away with $500,000. If we stay together, we have $1 million together. And if we can fight the jealousy, let's do it. Because who's to say? I would get drunk beforehand. I would get hopped up on shrooms or something. Could be the best experience that I've ever had. But it wouldn't matter because I'd be hopped up on something. So, and I'd have $1 million, or at least $500,000. So anyway, thank you all for tuning in tonight. Sorry for the camera delay for just a few moments, but next week on Real Talk, Casey will be joining me once again, and we will be diving into the movie Killing Zoe, starring Eric Stoltz, and it's from the debut director of the co-writer of Pulp Fiction, Roger Avery. So that'll be a fun show. Check us out on Spotify, The Other People Show. There's some Other People shows and some Real Talk episodes, Clay Pigeons and Donnie Darko. Please go to The Other People Show on YouTube as well. And thanks for tuning in. Good night, everyone.